Hour.
It is good to see you.
Live from an undisclosed location in California, it's us, Rich and D-Rock, coming to you live for Star Wars Hour.
Yes. So, Star Wars Hour, in case this is your first time joining, welcome. It's good to have you. Our major feature on this one is, of course, as the name suggests, Star Wars and all things related to it. This last week has been extra especially intense.
Heavy, yeah.
It's really crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And so I know we're leading with that timeline of whatever is time travel a thing now, literally timeline time travel, getting the gibbers here. Want to let you guys know how we do it. We do approximately 45 minutes of our own news and associated things that we are sharing with you, and 15 minutes of your questions. So go ahead, if you really have a question, you really want us to answer it, go ahead and super chat. If you have a question and you're kind of meh about us answering it, save it till the end. In the last 15 minutes, about 5 minutes before we wrap up our regular news section, we will prompt you to send your questions in, and we will go ahead and answer them.
That's correct. And if you do say something that we think might be relevant, we might answer it anyway. But hey, it goes how it goes here on Star Wars Hour. Anyways,
yes,
we've got a lot of really cool things to talk about today.
Crazy.
Do we want to start off with the time travel discussion, or do we?
No.
Okay, let's get into some other stuff
like
first.
all good news agencies, we save that for the 10 o'clock hour. I'm just kidding. We'll save that till the end. We'll probably only got 15 minutes of other stuff, and there'll end up being a half hour of that. So, if you're ready, I'll just go ahead and read through what I got this week.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Are you getting mad at?
Josh is already trying to start up the conversation here.
And we appreciate that fully. He super ragey on it, and I'm so excited. Okay, so this week I'm going to start with something that we talked about last week, which was a Childish Gambino quote regarding how he views the Solo movie, and that was that it's a fun summertime flick, which I didn't know how I felt about it until we got this quote from Rian Johnson this week. It was in a recent interview. He was all praises for the Solo film, which is good and all, but the words that stuck out in my mind were so fun, it's so funny, the cast is so charismatic. Which seems that Kathleen Kennedy and Disney now has their hands in even what the directors say about films coming up. They have a very strict press docket.
It seems very by the book. Like here, you say this, and this, and don't diverge much farther than these book notes.
Yes. Yeah, it's, and I think we talked about this a little bit. A huge reason they're doing this was, as you mentioned, because of what happened last time.
Yeah,
I want you to go into it because you described it.
Yeah, so you like in the case of Episode 7, 8, and to a lesser extent Rogue One, they were trying to keep all the spoilers very hush hush, and so they're like, okay, guys, here's what you can mention. You can embellish a little bit on those things, but for the most part, we want to keep this down to a minimum. What ended up happening, especially in the case of Episode 8, was that so many of the cast and crew members embellished what they were allowed to say that, at least in Disney's mind, they think that people got the wrong idea in their heads on what to expect from Episode 8 because of what they weren't allowed to say and what they were allowed to say, embellishing that. So even though what it actually was, as Matt Pat points out on film theory, is that it was actually internet people like him that, did all these Star Wars theories and then, made people think a certain thing. I mean, I guess to a lesser extent, it could have also been the cast and crew saying what they were saying. Yeah. But the point is, Disney is trying to stay so safe right now. They're like, no, don't even embellish what you're allowed to say.
Nothing.
Just say it's a fun summer movie. It's a fun summer movie. Don't say anything else other than that.
Just keep cranking that line out until it releases. We don't have very long.
Yeah.
Their press tour has not been long at all. I don't think they really started until that first trailer came out, and now they're starting to talk about it, but it's more like we made a film. Like, you'll have to go watch it.
But you know what? Even though we were kind of giving them crap for taking so long on the trailer, in a way, it's kind of good because they haven't said anything, and because they're going to barely say anything, our expectations are kind of like, so like when we actually see the movie, even if it's maybe not the greatest movie, we'll be like, whoa, that was actually a decent movie.
Maybe it'll blow us out of the water. I don't know. We're gonna have to see what ends up happening.
I think they're trying to gauge expectation here.
Yes. Yeah. So with that little bit of Rian Johnson quote, I want to go back to some old news, kind of jumping around here today, just because I want to present it in order of importance, at least to me. That was just something I found interesting this week. Another one was, I can't ever say his name, Peter...
Cushing?
Cushing, thank you.
Tarkin?
Yeah, Peter Cushing, Grand Moff Tarkin, and kind of a fairly recent kind of dig up of an old interview. I just basically saw this article re-released, if not released for the first time, was regarding his boots in the film. I think it's hilarious that his feet were so large, which... we're gonna leave that alone. That the stock boots in the shop did not fit anything, and he came on set so close to when they were supposed to start filming, they didn't have time to make him a custom pair. So in every scene, just a little tidbit for you the next time you watch it, every scene you see him in where it does not show his feet, he is wearing slippers.
Yeah, that has been a kind of a fun little Star Wars tidbit behind the scenes, if you will, for since it happened in 1977, not a whole lot of people know about that, and so it's fun to see that still kind of gets brought up in conversations. I remember
he was talking about it in an interview.
Yeah, because when they were doing the motion capturing for Snoke, Andy Serkis wore slippers in honor of Peter Cushing.
Yeah, which you can do because you're mocapped, so you're not really in it.
Yeah, so a little fun.
Yeah, little fun little bit. So we're gonna keep going back with a little bit of news on when the Solo film is taking place. I'm going to do all our Solo news next. So Star Wars, or Solo, a Star Wars story, they finally hammered out when it's going to be taking place. Not like the exact date, time in the whole timeline of Star Wars.
But they gave a little bit more clarification on that.
Yes, they gave a little bit more clarification thanks to Del Rey Books, which is the official publication line of Disney. They created and published their formal timeline. And in that, it places us before Rogue One, before Rebels, after Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith.
Of course. Yeah.
And nestled right in between Star Wars Tarkin, which is a book, and then Star Wars A New Dawn, also a book. So Star Wars A New Dawn was 11 years before, not Rogue One, but... A
New Hope.
A New Hope, and then...
BBY.
Yes.
Before Battle of Yavin.
Yeah, before Battle of Yavin, and then Tarkin was 14 years. So we're really going to see this kind of a moment in time, is my guess. Probably not spanning more than a month?
Yeah,
I have a feeling the timeline in the film is not going to be this, like...
I assume that, you see him, speeding down that freeway-looking thing with the girl, and it's her hair's, got the bangs, and then later in the trailer we see her with different hair. They've just released the synopsis of the new Han Solo comic book, too.
Yes.
And it says, in their early days as teenagers, what I think is going to happen is we're going to see him meet her as teenagers in that scene, and then maybe they'll do a year or two at the most time jump for later when most of the action takes place.
Yeah, maybe so.
But the point is, like you were saying, I think that this is all going to take place about, 14 years before episodes?
Yeah, about maybe 12 or 13 years before, and then it's really going to settle. My guess is it's going to do the thing where it shows him try to join the Empire to be a pilot, right? Mm-hmm. And then maybe not even a couple months past his training, you'll have this kind of first portion of him be this... montage. Almost. It's going to kind of cut through real quick. Just kind of show you... Han Solo! Yeah, exactly. Just kind of show him move up and in the world, more or less, and then kind of jump off as a smuggler. And that's when he'll meet Lando. And
montage has to end with him jumping off of a spaceship, skydiving onto the planet, Han Solo,
making a montage movie.
So yeah, this will actually be technically closer in time to Revenge of the Sith than A New Hope, although still somewhat in the middle, but it has to be far enough before Episode 4, so it's he should obviously look like Harrison Ford at this point. Well, let's face it, Harrison Ford always looked like Harrison Ford. But as long as you kind of keep him in his early 20s, then it's kind of believable that he would look different. Because remember, Harrison Ford was 34 when A New Hope came out, so they have a little bit of leeway before he has to start looking more like Harrison Ford. So
yes,
I think it's good. I think what they're doing is good.
Me too.
I always will say this: we didn't need a Han Solo movie. There's so many other better places we could go in Star Wars. But as long as they're doing it, I hope that it is good. And
me too.
I think that for what they're doing it right. as far as I can see right now.
Which
we'll see.
We'll find out in a month? No, 2 months.
2 months.
2 months, yeah. Okay, so then just a quick tidbit, not related to Solo, which I have next, is just, hey, JJ's done with the script. That just happened within the last couple days. He's all done. They're going to start filming in July.
For episode 9.
For episode 9, for FYI. Yeah, not some other news script. I'm not going to drop that bomb here. And so he should be moving right along. I think the filming will probably get done on time. I don't think there'll be any pushbacks or anything like that. And I am kind of upset because when I think it comes out, you're going to be like, yeah, it's a JJ movie. I don't really... It's going to be good. I think it's going to be great. I know we're super projecting. But I'll be like, yeah, JJ made this. I think that's going to be my reaction.
JJ made.
Right? So, okay. And that was all for him. Some interesting bits going back, just kind of into the... Actually, I'm going to bring up this one first. Was just a quick call I saw that happened in John Boyega's, one of his more recent post-film interviews, was he was talking about how his agent and his agency is the same as Robert Downey Jr.'s. Oh, yeah. And so he had asked Robert Downey Jr., like, hey, give me a call if you have any advice. And like the only thing that John Boyega really talks about from that was that Robert Downey Jr. told him to party hard, which is a very Robert Downey Jr. response to that. Maybe if John Boyega takes him up on that a little bit, we'll see some kind of fun changes in his character as Finn, just because he'll stop caring, which I think would be an absolute blast. But we'll have to see where that takes us. Do you have anything on that, Rich?
No, I think that's just funny exchange.
Okay. Well, then I have 2 other small bits, then one more large bit, and then the largest bit of them all, which will end up taking up the entire portion of the segment of this episode because it is huge. So, little bit is, for anyone who cares, toy news. Star Wars The Black Series is bringing back Darth Revan. He'll be released sometime in the next year.
Yeah.
I did not have
definitely be getting
date.
that.
Yes, yeah. So that will be coming. Rich is a huge fan of that, and so I wanted to make sure to bring that up. And in relation to the Star Wars toys, this was something I ran across too, just kind of clicking on the internet. It was a smaller article, and you can't really find it if you title it based on like Google searching Star Wars. You'll have to search Guardians of the Galaxy and then kind of go down this rabbit hole. That in Guardians of the Galaxy, there was a very strict and noticeable connection between them and Star Wars. And it was actually going to be done via Star-Lord's collection of Star Wars action figures and how they played a part in his development as a character and like who he was and stuff like that. It was supposed to be this major part of it. I think they ended up rewriting it to just have the Walkman play that portion of it. But there was supposed to be a huge like subplot kind of thing for this, which I don't know if I would have liked that, because do you think they would have done some weird blendy thing later?
I think they probably would have made a lot more Star Wars jokes, or he would have made a lot of Star Wars jokes. What I'm guessing is, aside from the obvious where they're like, oh, we don't want to just keep making a bunch of Star Wars jokes, it might have been one of those things where, sometimes Star-Lord says like a funny joke about like the 80s or 90s, where he's from, and it's like, those jokes always get lost on the other characters, and it's funny to us. If he keeps making Star Wars jokes and we're the only ones that appreciate it, I think it kind of has the diminishing returns where it's like, well, we can see the other characters don't really know what he's talking about. And it just would have been more stuff for the other characters to get lost, Well,
I think I agree with that. And I think what would have ended up happening was you would see, if they were going to make this like a major part of that Guardians of the Galaxy film, having him have those Star Wars figurines would almost be, I just don't know how I would like that. It would end up being like, yeah, we already get it. Guardians of the Galaxy is kind of like Star Wars. Like, why is this such a big deal to him? I think the Walkman was more of a better symbol.
Yeah, definitely better for the callbacks to, it obviously has major contributions to the soundtrack as well. You know?
Yes, seriously.
So, yeah, definitely the Walkman is that. Please, the Walkman.
Yes, yeah, much better. So last bit here, just on a set design portion before we move into what is going on in Rebels, which is the big news. It's what's going on. It's how they changed Snoke, and I'll just read through this real quick, and then we'll jump into Rebels because that's your territory this week.
Okay.
So how Snoke was changed in the Star Wars film via Rian Johnson's edit notes and his desires in the film in between The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. As you know, Andy Serkis played Snoke, and he has this kind of really deep, commanding voice that's just, yeah, it's very dark. It's a great voice for that character. Rian Johnson admittedly didn't like the way J.J. Abrams had him be this kind of like feeble, like really skinny, kind of smaller guy. And so what they did was they changed a bunch of the base stuff on how Snoke looked, because Rian Johnson, as it was put, wanted to bring him to a human level. Rian Johnson was also really nervous about making him 100% CGI. But the art team and the design team convinced him that, you can't do the half and half, or you're going to get some weird like Polar Express stuff. Yeah. And so the couple of items they used in order to make Snoke was they used physical statue, an older age person for the face and the wrinkles, and then they actually grabbed a very tall young actor for the body, and then took Andy Serkis's performance and just kind of blended them all together. Overall, they made the following changes. Snoke was originally 7 foot in The Force Awakens, and then 8 foot in The Last Jedi. They also redesigned his throat and his jawline. They gave him a larger chest, so he'd be more commanding, and they reduced a little bit of that scoliotic curvature that was really pronounced in The Force Awakens. So, do you think those changes were worth it?
The only problem is, it kind of gave rise to a lot of the internet theories that, like, oh, Snoke is obviously younger in The Last Jedi. We must be seeing a clone of Snoke, or we must be seeing some XYZ theory put here, so...
No, I don't.
A lot of people came up with all these theories because he looked and acted so much younger than he did in Force Awakens. However, I think we were talking about this a little bit earlier too. Like, cosmetic changes, especially with effects-driven things in movies, those things happen all the time. And I think, unfortunately, this is just one of those things where I think people looked a little too into it. And really, because all we did was see Snoke on a hologram in Force Awakens, and now we actually had to see him in the flesh moving around, changes had to be made to make him a little bit more real with the environment. That I really think that's all there is. So it kind of, this news, I think it's good. Everything that they said is good, and I agree with.
Yeah.
It just unfortunately puts a nail in the coffin of all those theories about Snoke. I really think Snoke's just dead. I really
do too. I don't think JJ is going to be able to recover him. Or, Rich, what if time travel exists in Star Wars now?
Maybe it does, but it wouldn't change anything.
Transition. So this is the big news that everybody is absolutely losing it over on the internet, and I will do the same. Are you ready for me to lose it?
All right, I'm going to let Derek talk, and then...
I'm going to lose it, and then I'm going to let Rich take the reins, because he's about to talk for 45 minutes. So, Ahsoka's back. Super cool, right? Super good. If you suck, because the way they brought her back was terrible. They opened it up into this like whole new world with portals, and I know there's like excuses which Rich will go into in a minute, but by opening up this time travel portal into the world of Star Wars, all you're doing is allowing J.J. Abrams and every Star Wars director from here on out to have a scapegoat, and that is terrible. Boo Disney, boo Kathleen Kennedy, how dare you bring your magic into my fantasy space opera. Okay,
all right.
You say words.
Okay, here I want to preface this by saying that at no point do I think that this was forced or out of the blue for any reason. Time travel can be very, very bad, damaging to some series, but it can also be pulled off very well. I'm going to talk about the context of this episode specifically. Yes, we do see Ahsoka for the first time since the season finale of season 2 of Rebels.
Yes.
We remember, guys, we never saw Ahsoka die. What happened was Ezra got locked out of the room that she was fighting Darth Vader with, and we saw her fighting Darth Vader, and then Ezra's like, oh, he's freaking out. The door closes, and they're freaking out for a minute, and then we just see the whole thing explode. Vader, falls out of the bottom, and we kind of see Vader like limping away, like, and he's got this because we do see his eye because his mask is broken. We see him kind of like confused and freaking out over what just happened. We didn't actually see what happened, and then at the very end of the episode, we see the temple again, and very faintly we can see Ahsoka walking back in. So it's like, wait, did she not die? What happened? We never actually saw what happened. Bringing us to now this episode, Ezra unlocks the temple on Lothal, because, most of the series takes place on Lothal, and we see the brother, we see the sister, the father, and the brother, the Force figures from the Clone Wars. There was that huge, planet where Anakin went to, and he saw kind of like what we can consider kind of the origins of the Force personified as this father, sister, brother thing. And they are a mural on this wall, and he figures out the whole thing, and it opens up the temple with the Loth Wolves. It's a whole thing, and then he goes in, and it's like we can hear voices of Yoda and Obi-Wan and even Kylo Ren and Rey, like the past, the future, all kind of coming together. Time does not really exist in this temple, in this world, the world between worlds, as they call it. So, anyways, he goes in there and there's portals where he can see certain things and certain timelines, and he finds the one where Ahsoka is fighting Darth Vader, and he sees the door close, and he's like, no, Ahsoka, wait. He sees himself crying out to Ahsoka as the door closes, and he's just looking at it like, I don't want to watch her die. What can I do? He just reaches his hand through the portal and pulls her out. He doesn't actually go in, and I will get to that in a second. What? He just reaches his hand in and pulls her out, and then that portal closes, and we see Darth Vader fall through the floor again. In other words, what we saw was something that we never saw before, but keep in mind that Ezra didn't actually change anything by doing that. We can assume if for whatever reason we could go back into that second season episode, and where'd you go? What are you doing?
Richie, I'm from an alternate timeline. We need you over here.
No, but here's the thing. This is really important. He didn't change anything. This isn't traditional time travel. If we could somehow go back in time and watch
we would watch
that
Vader
episode,
and have all of this stuff still happen. Is that what you're arguing?
No, I'm saying, like, if we could go back to that second season episode and somehow see what's going on behind that wall, we would probably see Ezra pull her out. Because it was always it's the kind of time travel, I believe, where it's like it's always meant to happen.
It's going to happen no matter what.
Yeah, it always happens.
You ready for something that's going to throw a monkey wrench in?
No, hold on. I'm not done.
Oh, you're not done?
I'm not done because I have much more to say about that.
Oh!
Okay, so...
everybody, for reference, we're talking about the recent development of Ezra going into some mythical time travel world and saving Ahsoka in Star Wars Rebels, which the internet is currently dying.
So anyways, he pulls her out, and then she's hanging out for a minute. He's like drastically trying to explain to her what's going on. And the little bird that we saw earlier in the show falls on her arm, and she calls the owl by the name of the sister. So we know that the owl is actually the personification, or is like literally the Force daughter from said mural and said Clone Wars episode, now in the form of this bird.
Yeah.
Anyways, and then like Palpatine is like, he has another way to get into this thing, and he's trying to reach out, but you notice that Palpatine can't even enter this world for some reason. He's trying to reach in there and do stuff, but he can't. And mostly important, he throws Ahsoka back in her own timeline like 2 years ago, and she's stuck there going like, oh, okay, I guess I'm back in this world now, and we see her now head back towards the temple like we saw at the end of that season 2 episode, again making it seem like this was always meant to happen.
So now she's stuck in a like never-ending cycle.
No, she's just back 2 years ago. Why she hasn't shown up since she was there 2 years ago, why she hasn't shown up now, I think is just simply answered by the fact that she saw what was going on and decided to stay out of it, and I think Dave Filoni is kind of making a new Ahsoka show that's all about her anyway, and he wants to save that for that.
Which I think should be fair.
So anyways, he leaves the portal, Ezra leaves the portal, and they eventually, by the end of this episode, lock the portal so no one else can go into it. Now, and so, maybe they could open it later up, but here's what I believe about the portal. I believe that the portal is the world between worlds. This temple is a way just to view the past and the future if you're able to access this temple. You can only interact with as far as you can reach into those portals. If you go into a portal like Ahsoka did, you're going to get stuck there. There's no DeLorean, guys. You're not gonna, be able to come back. And again, I think that like anything that could have or would have happened in this world, because it exists outside of our time, it would have already happened. Like, you're like, oh, what if Palpatine went into the future and then saved Snoke from dying? Can't happen, because we would have seen Palpatine save Snoke when it happened. It's just like everything that could have, would have happened. So literally, this time travel thing doesn't work the way that you think it does. All right. That's right. Last thing, I was going to compare it to 12 Monkeys and how, like, Bruce Willis is like, I have to prevent this guy that I see from killing all his people, and then he ends up being the guy killing all the people. Like, it's like one of those things where it's like, oh, this, I can't change this because it's going to happen. Anyways, you go ahead now.
That's fair, but I have one name that drives a shiver up everyone's spine when I say it. It's Phasma.
Ah!
Oh my God. What if that's how they explain it? What if that's what JJ does? What if the way JJ came back for episode 9 was if he had a way to erase everything Rian Johnson did? What if the reason the Rebels episode was written the way it was a big Disney conspiracy in order to save everything?
Well, I would say that that's not possible.
I don't
because these episodes they take at least a year and 2 months to animate. So meaning that the episode itself would have to have been started on a year and 2 months ago. The episodes were written about 2 years ago and recorded about a year and a half ago.
And when did Rian Johnson take over The Last Jedi and finish writing?
Well, about 2 years ago. But, okay, and here's the big thing. Oh, I had images that I've been forgetting to put up.
So theory.
So the thing is, here's the thing, and I'm going to start, now that I've said that, I'm going to go back to the beginning. Here's an article from 2012, February 2012.
Yes.
This was about 3 months before Disney even bought Star Wars.
Yes.
As you can see, there was this show, some of you guys might remember this, some of you might. There was a show called Star Wars Underworld. It was going to be the big budget Star Wars live action show. Literally $10 million was going to go into each episode to make it look like theatrical and everything.
Yeah.
Dave Filoni, who, was, of course, head of Clone Wars, and he hadn't started on Rebels yet, he was going to be a big part of that, and him and Lucas were working on a way to introduce time travel into the Star Wars universe.
That's what I'm saying, time travel.
And then, but if you go to Movie Web and you read this article fully, you'll see that the plan was kind of like, it was going to show, it was basically just a device so that these new characters of Star Wars Underworld could, like, look back at past events throughout the Star Wars history and future events of the Star Wars history, and it was going to be in a way so it's like, oh, that's how that happened. Oh, that's why that did that. It was going to be like they weren't going to change anything.
Yeah, but that's a super easy. That is a.
But hear me out.
That is an easy way for them to get away with all of this BS infighting.
It was going to continue my idea that I'm saying right now, that it's just people like kind of viewing the past and future without having a real effect on it, or characters that are just kind of there, but they don't ever do anything that would like alternate the timeline or anything. Yeah. And so that it's really important to note that this was going to be a thing, because 3 months later Disney bought Star Wars, and then it was soon after that Filoni pitched Star Wars Rebels. And again, I'm just saying, at least we can trace back this time travel thing to at least when Ahsoka was killed at the end of season 2, because Filoni claims that he had this plan the whole time.
I'm sure he did. I'm sure there was a way for him to.
But and this is really important. There's only one episode, or one hour and a half / 3 episodes left of Star Wars Rebels, and she's not going to be in it. He's already said he's done with Ahsoka for now. He just wanted to show how she survived, and then she's there in that place that she's stuck in. And I really believe it's because, of course, he's got future plans for her. And it's convenient that she gets thrown back to 2 years ago, because now he has 2-3 years of Ahsoka time before A New Hope now to kind of tell her own story. But because he created Ahsoka, and
this is that issue with the Force, right? So if you have all of these changes and updates to the Force.
I was supposed to show that earlier, and I didn't. That's the mural.
This is the mural, and then the little owl guy you can see on the right shoulder, which is right here, was on the right shoulder of the gal in the mural. So, what are you doing?
There's all kinds of fun stuff.
Yes, okay.
Oh, yeah, the owl is right there.
The owl's right there. So, so that being said, I am so nervous with how they've been introducing that each writer and director. But I know each writer and director has been taking their own stance and viewpoint and like creation on what the Force is. Like, we had midichlorians after the original one, and now we have Force lightning and physical ghosts, and now we have time portals, and we have flying Carrie Fisher. Like, at what point are we going to, like, chill with the new Force stuff and instead write a good story? What I think is happening, and I'm really afraid of it, and probably the main reason I'm taking such a pessimistic view on this time travel thing, is because I'm afraid they're going to start using this type of, like, evolution of the Force to explain their inability to write a coherent story. So, like, how do we destroy the last temple? What if Yoda lightninged it? Or the first temple, the oldest, whatever, Jedi temple. What if Yoda just blew it up with lightning? Okay, well, how do we explain Rey and... how do we explain Rey and Kylo talking? Well, what if they could VR themselves in the same room? Like, and then now we have, like, mirror, mirror on the wall, show me Ahsoka so I can save her butt. Like, I'm just scared. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. I don't know what they're going to do with it. But we have seen a big trend in that in the last 2 years.
I mean, it's a fair concern because we did see in Season 3 Kanan use the whole I'm stuck in space and then float towards a ship thing, months before we saw it in The Last Jedi.
Yep.
And, so there's been kind of this... Maybe I'm not giving the whole system enough credit. Maybe Filoni is talking more. In my opinion, he like barely says a word to Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah.
Maybe there is a bigger conversation there, and maybe they, because I truly believe that all of the ideas in Star Wars Rebels are his ideas, and then maybe Kathleen Kennedy and Rian Johnson, etc., are like looking like, oh, that's cool. I'm going to pull that. I'm going to pull that idea. I'm going to pull that idea, And like they like those ideas and pull them into their own thing. But I would say for the most part, I believe that all of the original ideas are Filoni's. He's pretty much the closest person over at Lucasfilm right now to George Lucas.
Yeah.
They're old buds. And I think as far as, the time travel thing, like I said, they could swing that any way they want to in the future. But like I was saying, for the context of just that episode, I don't think that time travel is as effective as you might think it is.
So then how do you think they're going to end Rebels this episode? How do you think the finale is going to go? Have you read anything?
I don't think it's going to have anything to do with the temple. They closed the temple. They're moving on. They released the 1 minute preview for the next, and it's just the Battle of Lawful and them trying to free Lawful.
So do you think it's going to be like an hour and a half or so of just that, and then they're going to be like, okay, we're done? Or
I think what super theory here, possibly spoilers.
Extra.
Here's
theory.
what I think. I think that basically what's going to happen, at least based on what I think and based on that preview we saw, Ezra's going to call up Hondo. He's going to call up all of the people they've met throughout the show to help them free Lawful from the Imperials. Governor Price is of course in trouble because she disobeyed Thrawn's orders, so he's got her on kind of like on ice, but she's still going to try to prove herself. So anyways, there's going to be this big battle between Rebels and Imperials. I think Mon Mothma will send the fleet that she refused to send before to help them out, kind of like the big Scarif battle at the end of Rogue One. And I think this is all going to happen. It's all going to end with a big standoff between Ezra and Thrawn, and they're going to be in like the big office or whatever, and probably they'll kill each other because as we know in Rogue One,
people exist.
Well, remember the Ghost is in Rogue One, and they call General Sandola on the intercom, and we actually do see Chopper go by the screen a little bit. Yeah,
I missed that.
Yeah. Well, you weren't watching Rebels at the time.
But yeah, I'm so sad.
So we know for a fact that at least Hera and Chopper exist, in after this show. But Zeb, Ezra, Sabine, Thrawn, all of them could be dead, and I think it's possible that they all could die.
It's going to be a kind of Rogue One ending again, because that's what's happening in all of these. Everybody you don't see in a future film doesn't really just get a write-off explanation on why they're not there. They die.
Yeah.
Like that seems to be the Star Wars theme.
But it could also go the other way. I mean, I actually do believe in all of my heart of hearts that Zeb will die. Really sad, but I believe he'll die. Thrawn, they got to get rid of him because Thrawn's an awesome character, but if he was around during the original trilogy, we would have seen him. Yes. So they got to axe him. And Ezra and Sabine, Ezra has to die, or at least get knocked out, because there's no way we go through the original trilogy without that powerful of a Jedi.
No kidding.
And if he does live, they got to come up with some really cool-ass epilogue. Here's what I think. If he doesn't die, they're going to spend the last 10 minutes, like, kind of going through the rest of Ezra's life.
Yeah.
And, like, maybe him and Sabine do end up getting married, and maybe their child is Rey. Who knows? But they got to explain that. So,
I hope they don't do that.
I was just telling Jackie last night, if they want to give a little bit more meaning to the character of Ezra and Rey, then Rey's just his daughter, and now they actually have a purpose.
Yeah, but oh man, But that's gonna, maybe JJ will include that in. Maybe that's his big in. He's gonna let it be. That's gonna be upsetting. Do you think JJ's gonna bring Ezra into this one?
No, I don't think
as like old timeline stuff. If they end up having, see now here's something that's too complicated. I don't think they're gonna end up being Rey's parents, because then JJ has to come up with a way to introduce Ezra as like a past Force ghost thing. Who are you gonna cast for that? I think that creates too many issues.
No, I really don't think you have to. I think it could just be mentioned. And honestly, at least as far as Rey's concerned, she thinks she might be the daughter of two Junkers.
Yeah.
She could always think that for forever.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. It could just matter for the timeline of Rebels. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it can. It really could. So,
because I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happened in the original movies that comics and video games are like, well, this is what actually happened behind the scenes, and that never affected the movies.
No.
So I mean, it could be the same thing where it's like Rebels could say that Ezra is Rey's father, and they just never touch on that in the movies. But
that would be pretty rough. That would be pretty rough for them to take that and make that their.
I mean, it might.
That would be such a. It would be such.
Because think of it this way. Average moviegoers are okay with Rey just being like a nobody, but it's the hardcore Star Wars fans. They're like, no, she needs to be connected. So what do? They just put that in Rebels, and then that satiates that.
It was funny because of all things, I can't say what I do or who I was talking to for a job, but I was talking to somebody at work who was an original, like, I was 18, sat in the theater, watched the first episode of Star Wars, like, hardcore fan, and his hate for like The Last Jedi and stuff, he couldn't quantify. I was trying to like get him to be like, hey, like, what's this, like, articulate to me why you don't like it. And I think it comes down to what they're doing with like these Star Wars portals and stuff like that, because I share that with my dad. My dad was one of those originals too. He was a little younger when it came out, but he's been an original fan for all of Star Wars. And he goes, why is the internet so mad about what happened in Rebels? And I had to explain it to him. And I said, they've introduced this ability to explain literally anything, and that's terrifying. Like in the form of time travel, which is up for debate, and we'll leave it in air quotes until they hammer out or never bring it up again, which they'll probably honestly just do that, so they can make that Ahsoka story. But what I've been running across is a lot of the hardcore fans are hating it for the same reason that I'm terrified about the time travel. It's not because of what it did or what it means for the future, but it's how it is a continual evolution of the Force, which is just muddying the waters on how you tell this story. Somebody mentioned it in here, which I missed it, which is what I've always said. It's actually a hockey song. It says, Kennedy, Abrams, and Johnson are treating Star Wars as a sci-fi series. It's not. It's a space opera. And I said that a little earlier, and I fully agree with that. It is almost more of a... It should be more of a Western. It needs to be more of a Western than a sci-fi film, because if you're having a sci-fi film, you can come up with whatever you want, but that's never been what it is.
Yeah, episode 8 definitely felt more sci-fi than any Star Wars movie before it. Like in Lucas is this he's a local guy from Modesto, just wanted, have like, bounty hunters and, he was on a sand planet and you got stormtroopers shooting.
Space cowboys.
It was all, space cowboys, Han Solo is a space cowboy,
he's the gangster I love. They call him Maurice.
I think for the most part, you could look at especially New Hope and go, that's a space western, and then the original trilogy as a whole is a space opera, but A New Hope really is a space western akin to other space westerns. You think of like Serenity or Firefly, that's the same thing, and then like Trigun, all those like space, they're in space, but it's kind of a western.
They are westerns in space.
I will say
that simple.
Episode 8 for sure did not feel like a space western at all, so I'll give them that, but that's okay, because for the most part, the prequels kind of lost the space western-y feel as well.
But that's when they turned it into the space opera.
Yeah.
That's when they were these over-dramatic stories, which I would argue I would like them to go back to the space western. Yeah. Or a space war story. the amount of good they did with Rogue One, more battles. I mean, I hate it. They keep doing all this character development, which is cool and all, unless they don't actually do anything.
Here, this guy's D-Rock. He wants less character development, more action.
Well, yeah, seriously. And the only reason I bring that up is because when you watch The Last Jedi, what were the points that, on a whole, everybody could agree they were filmed well, they were written well, and everybody loved. You had the battle in the throne room, an amazingly choreographed scene, amazing shot, amazing colors, amazing CGI. They did a great job of it. And then the final battle when they're on Crate, when they are fighting in the salt and the sand, and it looks so pretty, and everybody's having it because you have that little, just enough for you to care about the character. They didn't need all that other stuff. They didn't need to go to the casino planet. They didn't need to do any of that. But of course, just hyper-fixation on character development.
I would argue that even though Rian Johnson likes to pat himself on the back, I don't think that there was actually much character development in Episode 8. I think all of that was just bad writing.
Oh, I would agree with that too. But J.J. Abrams, I will give him the credit of... albeit people complain that it was a shot-for-shot of The Empire Strikes Back.
Now, if you want to talk about character development, Episode 2 had a ton of character development. Yeah. It just maybe wasn't executed 100% perfectly.
The characters did not
there was really just a bunch of characters running around doing things in Episode 8. I can't really think of... I think the only character development was really Rey and Kylo. Those were the only characters that I felt like actually like changed over the course of the movie a little bit.
And maybe it wasn't maybe it wasn't development, but it was... they felt like they needed to explain all this stuff. They felt this over and needed to explain. We spent 28 minutes on
I think what you're actually
the homeworld with Luke and Rey. That was so dull. That wasn't needed.
I think what you're actually thinking of, D-Rock, is exposition. That's what it was for.
Way too much. Yeah. Way too much exposition. Yeah, that's a good point. And there was not enough character development. That's
because I would
nothing meaningful happened.
Yeah, because I would argue that Star Wars actually, in my opinion, needs more character development, just less exposition.
Thank you.
I think that's
more meaningful character development, less blah 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 interaction, because it was never about that.
Because like at least 40% of The Last Jedi was exposition, and I mean there was even the whole plot of the Canto Bight thing could have probably been taken out, and then people probably would have stopped bitching about the movie. I don't know. Yeah, people are really unhappy with the way things ended up with Luke too, so I don't know.
I gotta tear apart Hockey Song real quick, and I apologize for this, just because the story was good, the writing was bad. The acting was better than The Force Awakens by far. I would argue it was better. The effects were beautiful. You might have done what I did with whatever the new Blade Runner and saw it in a theater with a dead bulb. But the movie was beautiful. And then I do not agree with the politics. Everybody keeps bringing up this, it was political. I don't
think it was political enough.
I think they kind of just washed over a lot of really important parts about it. And I think the reason everybody keeps saying it's political, which I don't agree with at all, is the introduction of Rose. I think Ryan introduced Rose because he thought that was going to play a bigger part on the Battle of Crate when she knocks Finn out of the way. I feel he wanted us to feel that moment more. And for me, it just felt empty because everything Finn and Rose had gone through in order to get this other way to save the rebels, or the resistance, was mute. We didn't gain anything.
I really think that could have had a better effect if, like I've been saying, you skip Canto Bight completely. You have Finn just wake up at the end of the movie right before they go to Crate, and he's like, "Oh, what did I miss? Oh man, you missed everything. We'll have to explain it later." And then they get down there, and Finn's like, "Okay, I'm just a stormtrooper. I was trying to do some help. I don't even know where Rey is. I might as well sacrifice myself." And then Poe knocks him out of the way.
Well, you could even...
Makes a lot more sense.
Yes, and you could still introduce Rose, but have her be this important key figure on figuring out how they're going to get away. Or like maybe Rose says, "Hey, I've been working on something," and maybe explains to Holdo that she had seen a ship hyperdrive through another ship and it tore it apart. Like maybe there's some type of important exposition that proves shows her worth. But we just never had that. That didn't end up happening.
Yeah.
So,
well, ultimately, Coulda, shoulda, woulda. They ended up making the movie the way that they made it. But I think you can really make that movie without Rose. But I don't like to say that because then it kind of contributes to the whole like Rose hate. And I think that most Rose hate is.
I thought Rose was a good actress. I thought she did a good job.
Yeah, I thought she was a good actress. I think that she was, she was fun. She was cute. She had more that she could have contributed. I just feel like they didn't use her well.
Yeah, Zanzibar has a great point. Have Rose be the codebreaker.
Yeah, Rose could have just been the codebreaker. It's like, oh, she's just like what was she, a security officer or something?
No. She worked with her sister. She was like a maintenance mechanic.
Yeah, she could have also been a codebreaker too, secretly or something.
Yeah, and she was instructed not to let anybody use the escape pods. So, okay, all right. Sorry, we went over our time, which gives you guys even less time for us to answer your questions.
I think we were kind of answering questions already. Anyway,
also, Hockey Song, I agree. I'm sorry I called you out. I'm sorry. That being said, we have been commenting in the comments already. We've been commenting on the comments to put in questions now. Now's the question time where if you have any questions for us on anything Star Wars related, whether that be anything we're currently working on, anything that you've seen, anything that you want us to address, anything that you want to address to everyone as a whole, if it's a good enough question, we will read it. If you really want us to read it, go ahead and use the super chat.
So, Hockey Song, said something a little bit ago. He said, what angers me is that in 1 through 9, episodes 1 through 9, they're supposed to be about the Skywalker Saga. Mm-hmm. What confuses me about this statement is it suggests that the overarching plot of the new movies isn't still rooted in Skywalker lore. And absolutely is, because the person that is really, especially now, the person that is really driving the plot is Kylo Ren. And he's as much of a Skywalker as anyone.
Everybody else.
His name might be Kylo Ren. It could have been Ben Solo, but he's still Leia's son, and Leia was a Skywalker.
Yeah. I think that's just something that's missed because we didn't get to see that Skywalker connection. The most we got to see was him stab his dad. Yeah. And as far as like creating us have this love of the Skywalkers and expecting the Skywalkers to always be good, more or less. And it's just sad to see it go back to Kylo. Kylo's our saga. We're following the saga of Kylo now. That's going to be the episode 9.
It's just like, it's usually that we see, like, for example, we see, like Anakin, and he's the good guy until the end, and, the bad guy is Palpatine, and then in the original series, Vader becomes the bad guy, but then the Skywalker is also the hero as well. So we're kind of spoiled from the original trilogy that the hero is a Skywalker and the bad guy is a Skywalker.
Yes.
But, that, of course, that wasn't the case in the prequel trilogy. And then now in the sequel trilogy, it's kind of funny because it's like, hero Skywalker, bad guy non-Skywalker, original trilogy, Skywalker, bad guy and hero. Now we're in the sequel trilogy. Skywalker's the bad guy, and the hero's not a Skywalker.
Yes.
So we've kind of gone full circle now, where we're following this hero that's not a Skywalker, but the bad guy is a Skywalker. So yes, we've gone full circle, but guys, this is still rooted in the Skywalker family. This is still following the Skywalker Saga. Maybe it's not exactly where you wanted the Skywalker Saga to go, but ultimately, since the main villain is a Skywalker, we are still following the family tree of the Skywalker line. Nothing's changed except he's a bad guy, not a hero. So, there you go.
That's a good idea on Zanzibar's
what do you say?
Point. It's next question. Do you think episode 9 will start out with Snoke walking into a room and giving Ben Solo orders to train the knights, and then cut to present day to have the audience freak out like, oh, flashback? No, I don't think they're going to do that. However, that'd be pretty good. I would actually be okay with that.
Yeah.
Like, show a little bit more of Snoke origin and, like, maybe bring in some Ben... But I don't think that's going to be a thing.
Yeah, no, I think, they did the flashback in Rogue One, but that was okay because they didn't have an opening crawl.
Yes.
And, like, Gareth Edwards, his thing is like, we because this is a spinoff, I thought, let's not do an opening crawl, let's do a huge flashback that kind of explains Jin's character, and that's kind of like our opening crawl.
Yeah.
And I thought that was fine. I still think they should have had an opening crawl as well, but,
Agreed.
But yeah, I thought that worked there. I think you can have flashbacks in a Star Wars movie, and that's fine. I don't think that's the way that they should open it, because it's like, we can't go from an opening crawl to a flashback. So I think they should have the opening crawl, maybe do 1 or 2 scenes, and then maybe show some flashbacks. I don't even know if I want that flashback.
Yeah.
But I do want flashbacks, especially since this will be the last story one for a while. Mm-hmm. I do want some context and flashbacks. and things to kind of fill in some gaps. Because in my opinion, I know that there's not much that you could do since it's been so long since the originals. If I could have my own time travel,
right.
If I could go back in time, I would have had Lucas just make sequels in the 90s instead of the prequels, because as much as I like the prequels probably more than most people, but ultimately I think that was in the late 90s would have been the perfect time to have, Hamill come back and Harrison come back and everybody come back to be like 20 years older instead of, 40 years older, and have them die off and barely be in it, I think that they missed an opportunity to do these movies earlier, and so we could actually see their children grow up and turn to the dark side, and whatever. So that may be a missed opportunity now, but at least maybe give us some key flashbacks to fill in.
I'm sure they will. There's almost no way. Star Wars has become this thing where you cannot explain the story without going back.
Yeah, absolutely.
So next question for Josh, and I think this is related to either our opening on the Star Wars Hour or maybe Rebels. It says, are you guys going to do the opening crawl? And if so, try to make it close to the films with the crawl editor? Because we did that in Rebels.
Yeah, I was going to say, in our Rebels Abridged show, we do have an opening crawl, but I created it entirely in Adobe After Effects, because crawl creators are glitchy and, they're cheating.
Yes. Rich likes to do it the hard way, with blood, sweat, and salt. And so we have Hockey Song here with a follow-up question. Did you hope Hayden Christensen would appear in Episode 8 before the film came out? And do you hope Hayden returns for Episode 9?
That's kind of a double-ended question. I was actually hoping that Anakin would come back in Episode 8 as a ghost to kind of lead Kylo back to the good side. Be like, hey, you worship me, but I actually, here's why I went back to the light side, and here's why you should too.
Yeah.
But of course, as we know, what ended up happening was he killed Snoke, and then now Kylo is the main bad guy. So I think that for the context of the film, it was appropriate that we didn't quite see that. And for some reason, Kylo just doesn't have that same connection with the Force that Luke does, where he can see Force ghosts.
At least not yet.
I am now hoping that at the end of Episode 9, Anakin does come as a ghost before Kylo and says, hey, you better quit this shit right now.
Knock it off. I guarantee you he will not listen.
Yeah.
If they do bring him back and they do have Hayden Christensen tell Anakin, have Anakin tell Kylo, knock it off, he's going to go, no, Father, you were weak, and you're ultimate Sith Lord, I'm angry, and smash helmet again. So, follow up on that, which was Zanzibar and Hockey Song both talking about our boy Lando. I hope he makes an appearance in Episode 9, but I think at this point it would be kind of sad because they killed off Han Solo. I don't know if it would be worth it. I don't know in what context they could bring him back and it wouldn't be sad.
Yeah, I mean, again, we were talking about how Lando could have fit in Episode 8, because he could have done this, and this, and this. But at this point, I don't know, Lando, it's like, because it's been so long now since they've mentioned him, it's like, I think
the ship has sailed.
Yeah, the ship has pretty much sailed. It would be too forced now at this point, sadly. But I do like that, Billy D. Williams is voicing his character in Battlefront, and hopefully they, in the next show that takes place after, because I really hope that Dave Filoni makes his next cartoon after Return of the Jedi to kind of fill in all the gaps that we've been talking about.
Yeah, seriously.
That he has an explanation for what happened to Lando as well.
Well, I'm excited. I think it's simple, but I think one of the biggest things I'm excited about is the release of what Episode 9 is going to be called. I think we are going to be able to tell so much from knowing how J.J. Abrams writes and directs from just the title. So I'm super pumped. So I don't know if anybody else has any other questions. We have just a couple more minutes here on the Star Wars Hour, and this is your time.
I think Josh was clarifying that he was talking about Legends of the Force, and Zainab was also asking about the opening crawl Legends of the Force. Yeah. That has yet to be determined.
Yeah.
We're actually looking into doing something incredibly different and creative for opening up this show, so I would say I'm leaning towards no. Mm-hmm. And again, I love opening crawls in the Star Wars movies, but you'll notice Rebels doesn't have an opening. Our Rebels has an opening crawl, but actual Rebels doesn't have an opening crawl.
That was just so he could keep making continuity jokes.
Yeah, I just wanted to make jokes about Dave Filoni being, hating on the continuity and all that. But yeah, for Legends of the Force, I don't think we're gonna. I mean, we could. I don't think so though, because we have a really cool idea for how to open it, and
I don't think it would be
opening
worth
crawl
it.
just wouldn't. Also, because we can't use, and here's the saddest part of all, we can't use actual Star Wars music.
Correct.
Because it's all we'd get taken off right away.
Yeah. So unless you want to hear a rendition of me and Rich singing it,
Yeah, we can't use the actual
we don't
Star Wars
harmonize
theme.
well at all.
And I don't really like. I mean, again, in abridged, had the opening crawl and had the do 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 do. I had that like really fakey music
because you were talking because it's a
comedy.
comedy.
It's a comedy. But if I was gonna use the crawl in a legitimate drama, I'd have to use the Star Wars theme, and that's like, oh, can't monetize it now.
Yep.
So no, probably not gonna do the crawl, guys. Sorry.
Yeah. This was interesting. I think we talked about Disney doing this potentially when they start their own. We mentioned it briefly on one of them, Hockey Song. You're asking, should there be a Game of Thrones themed Star Wars live action series? We had actually mentioned this in a few episodes ago, where we think they're going to do that. When Disney starts up their version of Netflix, when that gets released.
I think he means a Game of Thrones style Star Wars live action series.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, I think they're going to do it. Let me put this back up here because, guys, this was back in 2012 as soon as I get the mouse over there.
It is.
In 2012, remember, guys, that Star Wars Underworld, which was a live action show, was going to be a thing. And then a few months later, Disney bought Star Wars, and that was canceled. However, Bob Iger and Dave Filoni have already been talking about the new Disney streaming service coming out next year in 2019, and how they want to have a new animated show. They want to have a live action show, and they've just hired the Game of Thrones guys for something. So I really think we are going to get a big budget Star Wars live action show just like CBS with the Star Trek thing. They're going to make a Star Wars show so that you have to sign up for the new Disney streaming service. They're like, oh darn, there's this new 10-episode, huge, big budget Star Wars show. I guess I'm going to have to get the Star Wars, or the Disney, I want to say the Star Wars streaming service, which one I would also
which is
buy.
literally what I don't know what else Disney's going to come up with that's going to actually fit what we watch, but that's going to end up being pretty much it. So with that, we are coming to a close. It has been just under an hour, which is why we call it the Star Wars Hour.
The Star Wars Hour.
If anybody has... Oh, you scared the crap out of me. Rich is real hot on that stop streaming button.
Just getting it all set up.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, scared the crap out of me. We don't get...
Well, and
goodbye. And you're banished. But all right, guys, thank you for coming in and watching. As always, go ahead and hit the subscribe and the bell and share with your friends. I personally really like Rebels. Me and him are actually going to come off this and go straight working on the next Rebels episode, which should hopefully be released in the next couple of days. We'll see what we can do there. And I got nothing else. You got anything?
No, that's it. What?
Well, we got to plug the other thing. We might as well since we're here.
Yeah, because there's actually a video on it now. Hey. Right? Shoot, I wish I had the link in the description ready to go.
That's all right.
Hey guys, when this video becomes public, there'll be a link in the description below. It's not there right now, but it will be there in a minute. So we've got a new channel now. I know that this was already a new channel, spin-off of the Rich Albert channel, but we have another new channel. Guess what it is? So remember that video game talk show that me and Garrett were doing over on the Rich Alver's channel? Well, that is going on a brand new channel that's going to have a lot more video game related content. There is a small video on there right now. It's called the Video Game Network. But don't look it up because, there's like 4 other video game networks. There'll be a link in the description when this video goes public.
We'll get an annotation somewhere.
I'll put the
seconds. It'll be.
You're right. I wasn't even thinking about it. It'll be like right here.
It'll be right here.
No. It'll be right here. It'll be right here.
But you didn't bring it.
It'll be right down there.
Right.
It's probably there already because we're going to end this.
Okay, and then we'll have Rebels link be here.
Oh yeah. Okay, so Rebels. Sorry, I'll put my finger. Rebels here. Watch that, and then go watch that.
Yeah, right here.
And then subscribe to that YouTube channel.
Watch it because that's where we're gonna have a lot of fun with streaming and everything video game related. And I think with that we're done plugging.
All right. Have a good day, guys. Goodbye.
Bye.